All right, guys, we're in Jacksonville. We got a good lunch in. We've spent the last like 2 hours kind of straightening out the car, making some room. And then I was studying the map. And I had a feeling. I was like, I don't know where to go. I'm 100% going to Atlanta right now to see one of my best friends. Which way should I go after that? And I started thinking, I don't know. Maybe I go to Colorado. Maybe I go south. I don't want to drive through Texas, so I got to figure out another route. And then I start looking at the map, and I'm like, yo, what is this dude, Barefoot Appalachia, up to? Because West Virginia, it doesn't look all that far away. And just on a whim, I texted him, and I'm like, hey, man, where are you right now? And wouldn't you know that he's in Atlanta, Georgia? Barefoot Appalachia. The guy that literally is the Appalachian McConaughey. He goes around, he's lived in his truck for 13 months, planting seeds and planting fruit trees everywhere for free. He's trying to literally grow fruit everywhere. And he's a one of one. If you guys don't know, maybe you've seen Will Survives, the young man that basically moved out of his house and got into his truck and started building like fortresses in the woods. I think he spent like a winter in New Mexico. Anyways, long story short, that's how I met Barefoot Appalachia, was through one of Will Survives videos. And Will Survives is like a super big YouTuber. He's very famous by now. He's actually a rapper too. Pretty sick. Check him out. But yeah, like I saw Barefoot Appalachia and I was so drawn to his page because he has this genuine authenticity. Like he has his heart on his sleeve, and you could tell that that's a guy that truly cares about the bettering of people. And like, I don't know, he's just a trendsetter. You got to just watch his channel. I'm not sure what his YouTube is, but I know his Instagram, Barefoot Appalachia. I'm gonna have to double check if he has a YouTube. Maybe he does. But guys, it's crazy. I just met one of my favorite YouTubers yesterday, Ryan Johnson, and we had an amazing time chilling. And it's looking like there's a potential that it could be back-to-back me meeting my like celebrity friends and favorite people from the internet. And I just can't believe it, guys. It's like I'm in this flow state. I don't ever have like a plan. I like to buy one-way tickets, and I like to give myself the freedom to make decisions as I go and trust my gut. And so, yeah, like the stars just aligned, man, because me and Cole recently just exchanged numbers. We haven't even been texting. And I just hit him up and said, yo, what are you doing? So thought I would share that with you guys. And in addition to that, I appreciate you watching the other video. I got a lot of feedback from some people on Instagram, and they were saying, yo, I love it. I watched the whole thing. Shout out to Celeste. She said, hey, why don't you make it like 40 minutes? So per Celeste's request, I'm going to talk a little bit more, and I'm going to film a little bit more for this video. And I want everyone to comment what you want me to do, where I'm at, if you know anything I should be doing. Anyways, it's a beautiful day, guys. Jacksonville blew my mind away. I texted my family in Florida, and I said, yo, why did we not come to Jacksonville? Why have we lived our whole life going everywhere? Why have we not been in Jacksonville? This is not a drill. Jacksonville is a crown. It is a jewel. It is a gem. And if I were to move back to Florida, there is a strong case to be had for me to live in Jacksonville after today. But anyways, shout out to Celeste from Instagram. She asked me to explain a little bit more about my story, like how I started. And it's hard to just explain, an origin story. Where do I pick up? Where do I start? Well, I was born April 15th, 1992. I'm kidding. I spent the majority of my life in Florida, and I had a good life, good family. It was strict. I had to do my homework, my schoolwork, so grades were always a priority. I was set on going to college, working in politics, having a career in politics. I was really, really interested in that. That was sort of my passion as a youngster in Florida. And so, yeah, I had my trials and tribulations, my ups and downs. Going to college, failing, dropping out, going back to college, failing, dropping out, all in the process of working this job with the government that was a pretty serious job at the time. And I was so young, so immature. I was still making reckless decisions with my life. So I had fun with it. And ultimately, I learned a lot of lessons. I learned a lot about politics, and I learned a lot about life, what to do, what not to do. And true story, I'm one of those guys. I got fired on my day off. It's crazy. But yeah, it was my brother's birthday, my little brother's birthday. He lived in Tallahassee at the time. And I had this clearance into the Capitol and underneath the Capitol because of my boss. So I could get anywhere in the building I wanted to. And I took advantage of that for 2 years. If I was going out to the bars, I was going to park my car underneath in the members lot. And then if I wanted to, I mean, shoot, I could go back to my office and crash on the couch. So I never had any issues with that. I was very respectful with that privilege until one day I wasn't. And it was because I drank too much with my brother for his birthday. And we ended up wrestling around in the Capitol, like after we went out to the bar all night. And I pulled a fire extinguisher on my brother in the Capitol, and it set off the alarm. And yeah, the next day I woke up and I didn't even remember doing it, guys. I was on like a crazy bender in Tallahassee. Tallahassee, if you don't know, is like the party capital of any college in Florida, by far. So yeah, that was a different point in time in my life. A lot of partying, drinking, and just, you know, BSing. And ultimately I got fired and I had to take it on the chin. It was a pretty tough lesson learned. And I still was able to keep my job on campaigns, but I was no longer allowed to work for my member. He was terming out in like 3 months. So it wasn't like a huge deal, but they pretty much let me know, hey man, what you did is not okay. And we could basically charge you with a felony for dispensing a fire extinguisher. That's how it works in Florida. You do like one thing, you make a mistake, the first thing you hear is that they could probably charge you with a felony for it. It makes no sense. I'm like, dude, I'm sorry. Yes, I did it. I apologize. I took full ownership of it. I had to actually meet with the sergeant at arms in Florida at the Capitol. It was a pretty serious meeting, and it was wildly, massively embarrassing for me. So that was a huge fall from grace. And shortly after that, I had to figure out, what am I going to do? And so I was still working the campaigns. I had a representative and a senator I was working for. And ultimately, guys, at that point in time in my life, I think it was 23 or 24, I just realized, I was like, this politics stuff is not really for me. I just felt like there was a lot of like kissing up. Like you had to kiss someone's butt to get anywhere, and you had to scratch their back, and they would be quick to pull receipts on the last time you scratched their back or they scratched your back. It's this weird like fraternity almost that once you're in, but you got to pledge your allegiance. You got to take the oath, and you got to be loyal to the people in power so that you can be privileged with opportunity and promotions. And so for me, it didn't work out. Hold on, I just had to make sure I was still filming, so I just said a lot. And so from that point on, I was just like, man, what do I do? Like, I've never been in this position. I guess I could go work at a restaurant and, you know, try and get a job as a server. And so I bounced around from restaurants in Orlando, Florida, and just random jobs, man. I was doing anything and everything I could just to get by. Really just like, that kind of started the next chapter of my life. I went from something that was so secure and so comfortable and familiar, and I thrusted myself into this unfamiliar position by just being an idiot, being a bonehead and making stupid decisions. But you live and you learn. And so I should have taken that as a sign that I shouldn't be drinking alcohol at that point in time in my life. But I was still young. I was never like an alcoholic, like, oh, let me wake up and drink. But I had a pattern of excessively drinking to the point where I'd black out and then I wouldn't feel bad about it and I'd do it again. And so I had a long list of nights where I would stay up way too late, drinking, hanging with the boys. And fortunately for me, I stayed away from like hard drugs. But I did dabble in like a couple different drugs. They were all prescriptions. And I felt like I started like losing myself. I'm like mixing the timelines too. At this point in time, this is when I was still working in the state. That's when I started getting into prescriptions, and they were just easy to find. Everyone had them. And so, yeah, I started getting addicted to pills, and I was already kind of addicted to alcohol without knowing it. And then, you know, one thing led to another, crash and burn, live and learn. So I start my next chapter. I moved to Orlando, working at restaurants. And I was kind of like done with politics, wanting to do music. And the whole time I was in politics, man, I was recording music, going to studios, hanging with rappers, like secretly, because I didn't want it to be a distraction. And I also didn't want them to like potentially fire me. Like, hey, you can't be like at the studio with these rappers and BSing and work on campaigns. It just doesn't go together. It's not good for the brand. And so felt like a sense of freedom when I got fired. like this massive weight off my shoulders, this responsibility I didn't have to deal with anymore. And I did not learn my lesson though. And so fast forward, maybe like not even a year after I got fired, probably within a year. And that's when I got arrested for the first time. I made a comment about that yesterday when I went to jail in Polk County, Sheriff Grady Judd. And I went to jail for refusing to blow for a DUI. Now, I want to say this to anyone out there. This is not meant to be like a cheat or a hack for DUI. But working in the state and being around different people in positions of power, I remember, I'll never forget, I saw a representative the night that I saw him. He was partying. We're at the club. You know, a lot of the members would go out and party. And then sure enough, the next day, his dash cam footage was on like whatever, Instagram, Twitter, I don't remember what it was. And he got arrested for DUI, and it was a bad thing. And so I'll never forget that happened. I'm not gonna say his name because he was a cool guy. I don't want to bring him down like that. But I will name drop someone else, and I'll give you a little backstory on this person as well. So my boss was a high-ranking member in the state of Florida, and he pretty much called the shots next to the speaker. So the Speaker of the House, most powerful member in the House of Representatives, my boss was the chairman. He was the second most powerful. And with that would come a lot of different politicians that needed their bills passed, that would come to our office. And in addition to that, the up and coming representatives, like freshman members, that they were trying to position themselves for leadership positions later in their career. And so I'll never forget, because I picked up my boss and his friend, this other representative, by the name of Matt Gaetz. And Matt Gaetz was a freshman representative in the House, like a rising star, to be honest. He was an attorney, and his father was the president of the Senate. And Matt Gaetz told me that night when this member got arrested, he told me, and he said, yo, if you ever get pulled over, no matter what, if you've had anything and you know that you're not good, you never blow. Refuse to blow. And it was on the night of that representative getting caught, and so it stuck with me. And so when I did get pulled over, it was super embarrassing, guys. It was after my uncle's wedding in Florida. He had a wedding in like super South Florida, and I took a prescription pill that night at the wedding, and I hadn't done pills in a while before then, and then I drank alcohol. And so that put me in a different world, from not doing it for a while and then doing it. And so I just had this drunk high confidence that I could drive all the way back to Orlando. It was a 4-hour drive. And so, yeah, I made it like 2.5, 3 hours, got really tired, pulled over to McDonald's to get a coffee, fell asleep in the drive-thru. I get waken up by the cops on both sides. I'm in a tux. I got a bottle of champagne on the floor. Tragic, bro. Down astronomical at that point. And so I just remembered Matt Gaetz telling me, don't blow. And so this is not any legal advice at all, but a lawyer told me not to blow. I didn't blow. They told me on the spot, we're taking you to jail. Your license will be suspended for a year. We are going to charge you with the DUI if you don't blow. And so I didn't blow. I was like, I'm not blowing. Take me to jail, whatever. I'll take my punishment. And that started a series of legal events that would, really weigh me down for a whole year. I had to be on probation. I had to do all these classes and all this stuff. It was really valuable stuff, though, guys, looking back on it. The Mothers Against Drunk Driving, the impact witnesses of drunk driving, just all of these different people. And I had to do it. It was court ordered. And so it really changed my perspective, and it softened my heart. And I realized, man, I shouldn't be taking the risk of drinking and driving. It's just a bad decision. But yeah, I'm kind of getting scrambled with this story. I refused to blow. Ultimately, I was charged with a reckless driving, refusal to blow. I was not charged with a DUI. And so because I wasn't charged with a DUI, this charge was on my record for 7 years, whereas a DUI, you cannot expunge, and it is on your record for 60 years. And that's what Matt Gaetz told me that night. And so it stuck with me. And if you're watching this, don't drink and drive. That's my advice. Just don't do it at all. But having said that, I don't even remember where I was at before this story. I got so distracted and caught up in it. Oh yeah, the origins, what I was doing. Then I started talking about Matt Gaetz. Well, Matt Gaetz is now like appointed by President Trump. He's also got some very distasteful, just things that cloud his name. And yeah, I'll give you my opinion of Matt Gaetz, is that I never had a bad experience with him personally, but that's because my boss was the boss. He was in charge, and Matt was a freshman. My boss was a senior in the house. So he was always on his P's and Q's. And this is also 10 years ago, before he had his rise to fame, and he became a polarizing household name in politics. And so it's interesting to see his growth over the years. I watch him from time to time. I'm truly disappointed in the situation that he got involved in the Bahamas. It's really, really distasteful stuff that I hope is just, not true, but it looks to be pretty damn true. And so you hate to see it. But yeah, interesting little side note. Matt Gaetz gave me legal consultation in my boss's car when he was a freshman member in the House of Representatives in Florida. Super long time ago. Anyways, I say all that to say politics was not for me, and being arrested was just the worst thing ever. And so, yeah, that story, me getting fired from me getting arrested, is the proper chronological timeline. Me meeting Matt Gaetz way before I got fired, knowing him for a while, then getting fired, then getting arrested months and months later. So after I got arrested, it was really hard. I think that at that point in time, I was like working at like a telemarketing place and a restaurant, just doing whatever I could to get by. I remember having a hardship license, and I was only allowed to drive to and from work and like maybe the doctor, and that's it. And getting pulled over, coming home from work, and like them literally running me like you got to prove you're on your way to work. It was crazy, dude. It was intense. And then having to do probation and drug tests and all this stuff. It was very intense, very heavy on me. But it was a good exercise for me to take my life serious and to try and fix it. And I think that in hindsight, I'm glad that it happened to me, because it put me on ice for a year where I could have ruined my life. And so I'm not one of those people that has regrets or thinks like, oh, I should have got away with it. No, I was in the wrong, and justice was served. And so, yeah, I lived in Orlando, working at restaurants, trying to find my way, trying to make my music. And it was cool. I started getting like a very small local following and a small local buzz. And I was doing live performances, performing my music. And it turned into this really cool, like, kind of scene. And I wasn't anybody special, nobody really knew me. But I would do my thing. I'd pop my stuff. And then I started slightly building a cool little group of friends, and they knew friends, and then everyone came together. And so long story short, I was in Orlando for at least 2 years before I made my move to Colorado. And I'll never forget, I had a buddy in Colorado that was trying to get me to move there. And I just was like, nah, dude, I'm not moving to Colorado. Like, you're insane. And so finally, after all that I've been through, and, fired, arrested, off probation, finally free, there was a hurricane that hit in 2017 in Orlando that knocked us out, bro. This knocked the power and the water out at my crib for 2+ weeks. And after like a week of it, I just couldn't do it no more. And so I bought a one-way ticket. And then I told everyone that was cool, my friends and the small community I built around my music, we're doing one last show at the Vinyl. Pull up at the Vinyl. There's no power there, but we're doing a show. And then ultimately the Vinyl got like pummeled by the hurricane, and they were just like, we can't do it here. And so we did it in my friend's backyard. True story. There's about 50 people there, and we had a shit ton of candles, and we lit the whole backyard. I wish I had videos of this. Maybe someone somewhere does. That would be awesome. And I got to perform all my hits, and it was like my own show. And then I left Colorado. Like literally the next day I flew out. And so that was the biggest leap of faith I took in my life. I did not have the support of my family or friends. In fact, I was basically told, don't do that. And, a lot of people treated it like, oh, you're turning your back on your family and all this stuff. And it's like, I don't know, man. I just wanted to shoot my shot and chase my dreams of making music. And I felt like I was never going to reach a certain level in Florida, like that I needed to get outside of my comfort zone. And truly, I just wanted to go out west. Look at this. I'm gonna just pull over and park real quick, because I do have to look up this address. But I'm gonna finish the video first, and then I'll get back on the road. So yeah, did my last show, went to Denver, And it was like, yo, it felt like I lifted the veil off my eyes. I was like, wait, this is what it's like? This is insane. This is incredible. This is the best decision I've ever made. And so I went out to Denver without a plan at all, with very, very little money and resources. And I moved into my friends, and I had a full-time job on site at the property I was at on this farm. And I was able to work for a good like 9 months, save a bunch of money, and then buy a car. So I had to tell you guys all that. Sorry, I did just look at my map. I'm definitely going the right way. We're chilling. To tell you that when I got to Colorado, I couldn't leave this property for months at a time. Like, it was like insane. And before I got there, I was on like a vegan diet for like almost a year. And I remember like being there for like 2 weeks, and then I ate some chicken tacos, and I was like, man, I'm not a vegan no more. Like, I'm struggling. I need to just eat what's here. They were frozen little taquitos. And so, yeah, I saved my money, got a car. I got an SUV, and I never forget, I got the SUV, and it was like, holy, I got freedom, and I'm out west, and there's mountains, and there's all this. So I just started driving. I didn't look anything up. I didn't post anything. I didn't film anything. Nothing at all. I was just enamored by the beauty of the mountains, and to me, it was so amazing to see it. And so, yeah, I would drive as far as I can and sleep in my car for 2-3 days, go back, go to work, and rinse and repeat. And I did that for a few weeks before I realized I don't want to do this job anymore. Yeah, it kind of had died down, the job itself anyways, and so I was looking for a new opportunity. And yeah, long story short, moved out and moved to like Thornton in Colorado. And then from that point until it was probably 4 years of just odd jobs. And then, I gotta add in there too, my car, the car that I bought, that I spent all my money on, that I was driving around in, it had this crazy leak that I didn't know about. And so I ended up having to sell it for like next to nothing. And then I didn't have a car. And so I didn't have a car for almost 2 years in Denver. And I was just working, riding the bus, pretty much not making any money. Like, I was just like getting by and happy to be out west. Like, I was so happy to be there that getting by was a success to me. I was like, dude, I paid my bills this month. I could still go, have some fun here and there. I wasn't doing anything crazy. So I started biking a lot, getting into, hiking and taking the bus places. You got to walk a lot. You got to get around when you can. And so that kind of gave me like better mobility. And then I started hiking. Once I started hiking, I was like, yo, this is addicting. And so then I started like climbing mountains, and then I started climbing multiple mountains in the same day. And so I got fully submerged in Colorado lifestyle, the culture, for years. I was just in love with the winter and the summer, and just the weather, the community, the way that I felt welcomed out there, and the way that people treated me like I felt like I had real friends. And so, yeah, I was out there trying to just figure it out, still making music, but not really like knowing what to do with it, posting it and no one caring for like literally 3 years. And then I started coming to some realizations. After I turned 30, something clicked in my head, and I was just like, dude, like, this isn't what I dreamed of. This isn't it. I feel like I haven't been able to like breach the internet with my music or with my voice or with my personality. I hadn't tried successfully, or I'm sorry, I hadn't tried like calculated. I was just throwing stuff up and hoping it'd stick, and nothing stuck. So something told me I gotta switch it up. And I worked a ton of different jobs. I had girlfriends. It was just like a normal kind of regular life. And then, yeah, I started wanting more, and I started watching these YouTubers, man, traveling cross country, living in a car, living in a van, camping in a tent. And meanwhile, those 4 years I was in Colorado, I became obsessed with camping. I started camping all the time. Cold, hot, I didn't care. And so I'm watching these YouTubers, and I'm watching like everything, and I'm like, dude, this is crazy. This is next level. I would love to do something like that. And so, yeah, it just stuck in my mind. And then the winters get very cold and it's dark, and you want to stay inside. And so I just watch a bunch of YouTube and make music. And I moved into a studio, literally a recording studio next to a barbershop that had a toilet but not a shower, and I didn't have a car. And so I would have to ride the bus to work and then go to the gym to shower next to my work, and then ride the bus back home after I was done working. And I was like the general manager of a Smoothie King, or a tropical smoothie cafe, sorry. And so it was like a cool experience, like, but at the same time I was like, bro, I need to get something going. And so once I became the manager there, I was able to get a car pretty quickly, and that changed everything. And so I keep skipping stuff. I did have another car. In between the 3 years of not having a car, there was 1 year I had a car, and it was a great car. It was an Explorer that I bought for $200 off this guy. But that car died out after like a year. I got into a crash and didn't have insurance, and then my license got suspended. It was this whole thing. So I had to go through the process of getting my license back. Fast forward, I'm the manager at the smoothie place, riding the bus, showering at the gym, buy a car. Finally, I got a car again. Let's go. Next thing you know, I'm camping, I'm adventuring, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And so I just kept working, and like, I was like, you know what? Life is a lot better with the car, and with this job, it made it a lot easier. And I still stayed at the studio because it was like the only thing I could really afford and be able to do what I want, versus just being able to afford a place and not doing anything, like not having any extra money. And so, yeah, what am I trying to say? It's a lot to say. This is going to be the longest video I've ever made. Thank you, Celeste, for inspiring me and telling me to do it. What was I saying, bro? I'm genuinely like lost in my own sauce. That's right. Got the car, felt better, had the job. The car started going out on me. It was an old Subaru. So then for the first time in my life, I went to a dealership and got a car. And that's the last car that you've seen, the Hyundai, that I've been riding around in. Once I got the Hyundai, I was like, yo, it hits different. And so I signed up for Uber because I was like, you know what? I used to do DoorDash a couple years ago, and it was decent in Boulder, Colorado. You could make pretty good money in a week compared to what I was making. And I started doing that. And then I realized in Denver, just being an Uber driver, I was making more than I was as a GM at the smoothie place. And I was like, yo, this is crazy. Like, I could make way more money doing this, and I have the freedom, and I don't have to write a schedule, hire, fire, inventory, supply, order, deal with regional. Like, I didn't have to deal with any of that. All I got to do is pick you up, drop you off. And so I was like hooked on it. I was like, yo, this gives me the ultimate freedom. This literally gives me the opportunity to do whatever I want. And so, yeah, I took full advantage of that. I started making more money than I had ever made in Colorado. Pretty much as much money as I had made, you know, since I had my own business. I also forgot to add that in there. Guys, I'm terrible at telling this story because there's just an unlimited amount of moving parts that I keep forgetting. So please bear with me. I'm just gonna throw it in there, honorable mention. I did have a business in Florida after politics and before I went to Orlando. I started a lawn care business. It was very successful, and I ended up getting injured and I couldn't work. And so I sold all my equipment. I had to sell the business, and then that was that. End of that story. That'll be another story for another day. I'll talk about my business. And so, yeah, once I started doing Uber, that's when I started realizing, yo, I could drive anywhere I want. And then it was last summer, probably I think it was March or May. I can't remember if it was March or May. I just made the decision. I was like, all right, I'm spending a ton of time away from this studio. I have to just come here to sleep. Our studio had been shotting up twice, so I didn't like that. And it was just really hood. It was like in the trenches in, off Federal in Denver. And so I knew it wasn't for me, and I had overstayed. And so I had to get out of there. I was like, yo, I gotta leave. I gotta get out of the studio. I think it's time for me to just pack my things in my car and do this Uber stuff full time. And so I consolidated my stuff, and I managed to fit all of my belongings that I wanted to keep that were important, like my clothes, my computers, all my studio equipment, in my trunk of my car. And so I would be picking people up with my trunk full of things, and then they would get in my car and I'd drop them off. And like once every like 100 rides, I'd pick someone up from the airport and they would need trunk space. And I'd be like, yo, I can't do that, I'm sorry. And I'd have to cancel the ride. But it was truly like impressive to manage like being a full-time driver and live in the car, and my car was clean and nobody ever like had a complaint. I was a really high rated driver, and I made good money. So it was like giving me a lot of good feelings, a lot of freedom. And yeah, I was like, you know what, this Uber isn't even half bad. Like, sure, I don't want to deal with the people that are mean and that leave bad reviews, or like they're drunk and throw up in your car. Like, I probably did like at least 1,000, maybe more than 1,000 rides and at least 2,000 deliveries. Just parking here. We're gonna finish this before I get back on the highway. I'm dialed in on this story. And so, yeah, I just decided to take a leap of faith, pack my things in the car, and I stayed local in Denver because that's where I could for sure make money. And they have it set up to where you can't really be an Uber driver out of state. You gotta like redo it and register it, whatever is BS. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna stay here, but I'm gonna go on road trips, and I'm gonna go for a week, and then I'll come back. And so, yeah, I would go like maybe to Wyoming, or, you know, maybe somewhere deep in the Rockies. And then I go to Telluride and come back. And then I go to Durango and come back. And then I went to New Mexico, and I just started seeing it. And I'm like, dude, this is like so much better than what I was doing. Like, I was working to just get a check, to just pay rent, to just sit in the house and be tired from working and have to wake up and go to work again. This is way cooler. Like, I'm working more hours, but I have the freedom because now I can just go wherever I want and camp. And so I had all right, I got to get my timelines in order, guys. This is only my first try telling the story like in one take, so bear with me. So last March, I made the decision I'm going to do social media. And that was when I was doing Uber, and I sort of just had the free time, and I was going to these cool places. So I was like, I'm going to do social media, and I'm going to drop a song every week on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube with a music video. And that's going to be what I do. I got to give you the whole story, guys, or else it won't make sense. Sorry, I'm bad at remembering every detail in order. I'll get better at it. So yeah, March, I make my channels. Last March, I have no success on there. I dropped 12 songs in 12 weeks and I get no views. And at that point in time, I was living in the car. So fast forward, now it's June 1. And I'm doing content every day with no sort of, you know, traction. And I just thought it was the thing to do. I was like, dude, I could just live in the car, do the content, and see what happens. I'm done posting music because it's not getting me anywhere. I got to start posting like me doing stuff, and like maybe it's me playing basketball. So that's what I started doing. No, at no point in time did I look in the camera and talk to the camera. I was just doing like, you know, videos with audio and like being shy on camera. And yeah, that got me some views. That got me like a little bit of attention. And I was like, well, this is so sick. Like, really good basketball players are liking my stuff. Like, that's so cool. So it motivated me to keep going. But then I reached like a point where I realized, I was like, dude, like, this is turning into a basketball profile, and like, that's not what I meant to do. And so I started doing other stuff: food reviews, beverage reviews, grocery store hauls, camping, cooking in nature, and nothing stuck. And so fast forward, I was dating a girl who was in California, and I came out to California, and I had been posting since March of last year. I did not get to California till September of last year, the first time. And so from September till December, I really didn't have any traction at all. And so, yeah, I just kept posting in Bakersfield. Like, now I'm in a new city, like, people start recognizing places and whatnot. And one of my YouTubers that I followed, a few of them actually, I saw this pattern where they would clip a comment and then they would do whatever the comment says. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. I was like, bro, I need to do this. I have to get this in my life. And so I don't remember the first comment I ever clipped. I'll have to look on my page to see it. But it was definitely something in Bakersfield. Someone told me I should go here or go there, and I just took advantage of it. And then boom, that clip got a lot of views, got me a decent amount of followers. And so by January this year, 2024, in January, I had 200 followers on Instagram, and I had just hit 1,000 on YouTube, and I had like 30 on TikTok. And so once I did the comments video, it went viral on Instagram. The first couple ones, like back to back to back, I was like, holy crap, this is so crazy that this is working. I also did research on SEO, which is like search engine optimizations. How to write your caption so that it gets seen by a lot of people just by being a good caption. The caption's important. And so, yeah, that took my game to the next level. And then one thing leads to another. Like, everyone in Bakersfield's asking me to do stuff. And so I seen it as, I've been traveling cross country. I started in Florida. I should also add too that last year when I started going cross country, at one point in time, I drove all the way to Florida and all the way back to Colorado. So that was another trip I forgot to add on this story. I'm gonna have to listen back to this story so I can remember it correctly chronologically, which is hilarious. And so yeah, I started getting a lot of like views in Bakersfield, and I think it was like 2 weeks after I had 200 followers, I was at like 15,000, and it was insane. It was like all these big profiles noticing me, a lot of people messaging me and just asking me to do stuff. And so I saw that as my my golden goose, where I was like, you know what, I've made 200 or 300 posts, probably 200 posts last year before I had a viral moment. I think I'm gonna just keep doing this. And so wouldn't you know it, one thing led to another. And so I got to a point where I was pretty successful on Instagram in Bakersfield, like February, March, April, May. But I had this feeling, and I was like, man, like, I don't want to just be like known for Bakersfield. Nothing against Bakersfield, but like, I didn't expect this. And so I kind of felt like trapped a little bit, because I wanted to be a content creator, but I also didn't want to just be like a Bakersfield guy, because I wasn't even from there. But I got mad love for Bakersfield. Don't take this the wrong way. But I just wanted my channel to be seen by everyone, not just one city. And so I made a leap of faith. I was like, I took some trips to San Diego, collab with some big creators, went to LA. I spent pretty much all of my time in Southern California. I'd never really ventured out to even like Fresno. And so finally I was like, all right, it's time. I am going to the Bay, and I'm leaving Bakersfield for an undisclosed amount of time. And I'm going to do the same thing I did in Bakersfield in the Bay Area, for better or for worse. And if, you know, if nobody likes me in the Bay, maybe I'm only meant to be liked in Bakersfield, and I'm fine with that. I'll come back, but I want to try it. I got to try it, you know? And so never forget, the next day I'm passing through on my way to San Francisco, and I see a sign that says Stockton. And so I have thousands of screenshots of subscriber requests, and I enter them into my Google Maps. And so I take a mental note of some words, because I'd never heard of Stockton. And I was like, wait, someone asked me to go there. So I pulled the comment up in my screenshots, went there, shot the video, and then wouldn't you know that that's my most viral video to date. My most viewed video was the day I left Bakersfield and went to Stockton. And nobody really knows that, you know, it's hard to like keep up and keep track. I don't like put the score on the board and, oh, this day I did that. So this is me telling you how it happened, which is pretty cool to think about. But yeah, it was God just reassuring me. He was validating me. And it was just amazing. I couldn't believe it. I was like, dude, like, I never expected anyone in the Bay to like me. Like, that's where like super famous rappers and like the 49ers, like I'm thinking of like Apple, like all this stuff. And I'm like, bro, there's no way that they like me. Like, and sure enough, dude, I just started going around. That Stockton video put me on the map in the Bay. And one thing led to another. I started collabing with more people in the Bay. And then it just turned into I want to say like a 2-month, maybe 3-month trip to the Bay. And then I knew I had to go back to Bakersfield, because I had this huge following there, and I was doing a lot of community stuff there. And I didn't want to just turn my back on that. Like, oh, hey, look, I'm popping out here now. I would never do that. And my sister had her baby, so I flew to Florida. And I realized quickly when I was in Florida, I was like, man, I'm so glad I left. I wish I was home. I miss Cali. So I got to hang out with her baby. And then I went back to California. I was really missing it, ready to get home. And so went back to Bakersfield, popped it off, you know, did some cleanups and helped out in the community, gave back to some people in the community. It's what I do. And went right back to the Bay. And so the second trip to the Bay was when I was like, yo, I think I love the Bay. I think I love the Bay a lot. And yeah, I had a crazy summer, guys. I mean, I went from, you know, Florida back to Cali, drove all the way up to Washington State at one point, did a massive road trip out there. I've got a great video at Crater Lake I'm going to post probably later this week that I'll show you guys. That was in Oregon. And then things just started rolling. I started picking up the patterns from social media, the algorithm, and I started to see what was really performing well, and, you know, honed in on it. And we will fast forward it to September 2024, like 2 months ago. that's when I finally started making money for the first time. Pretty much since I started doing content like last year. I haven't had a job since I left Denver doing Uber. And so I still have my Uber app and I can do Uber, but I can't like drive people. Like I gave that up when I left. I was like, I don't ever want to have someone in my car again. And so I was like, I'll just do like food deliveries and keep that open, because that one you can kind of do from state to state. They don't really care. And so, yeah, from time to time, I was doing like side jobs. People would hire me for little side jobs. I would do Uber and stuff like that this year, but I never was making like money. I was just all in on the content and reinvesting everything I made back into trips and back into like making content. And so September 2024, that's when I started getting like offered money by people to collab and to do some deals through Instagram. And so truly blessed me, because yeah, I was looking at the numbers and I'm like, I don't see how I'm gonna make it to January at this rate. I need to start making some money. And I hadn't made any money off YouTube, and Instagram has not invited me to the creator program, so they've never paid me for any of my views. I think that I will be invited next year, 100%, and then I will be able to be rewarded for my views on Instagram. I mean, shoot, I've got a lot of views on there. It would be nice to get a check. And so right now, where I stand, I just, a week ago, my car broke down with 243,000 miles on it in Kern County, Lake Isabella. And so, yeah, I was down super bad, stuck at the camper. And I'm skipping so much stuff, guys. It's going to take like 3 of these to give you everything. So just comment what you want to know, and I will follow it up in the next video. But yeah, that was a week ago. Car broke down. And then 2 weeks ago, maybe. I don't even remember. Bro, I really don't remember. It could have been like 10 days ago. But long story short, I bought a ticket from a week after my car broke down. Yeah, it was 10 days ago. My car broke down. Bought a ticket the next day, and then my flight was on Wednesday. And right now it's Saturday. I got to Florida on Thursday. And yeah, picked up my my mom's old car in Bradenton that she left there. And that's what I'm currently driving. This is like my new car now. And yeah, I am in Jacksonville on my way back. So that concludes my origin story for today. I know I skipped a lot of stuff. There's a million things that I could add. If you made it this far, I literally love you. Thank you for listening to me and watching. It truly helps the channel as well, the people that watch all the way through. And yeah, this is definitely one of my more boring, long-winded videos. Not a lot of scenery, but I will add to this video on my drive. I'm about to get on the road, and I'm heading to Atlanta to see my buddy Jack. And I might see my buddy Cole, Barefoot Appalachian. So appreciate you guys watching. And this will conclude the video for now. Yeah, I'm gonna get some more footage from today and throw it together and put this on YouTube. It's gonna be like an hour long. Let's go.